They said Dreadmore House had been abandoned since the fire in '78, but someone still places dinner orders at 2:33 a.m. They pay in $100 bills that smell like dirt and rot, and I've never seen a single guest. The last chef went missing, left behind only a single severed finger in the stew pot. Now it's my job, and there are strict, unnerving rules taped to the walk-in freezer door. Asterisk, I arrived at Dreadmore House on a Monday night, the wind clawing through the trees. Like bony fingers, the gravel driveway felt endless, curving through gnarled oaks that leaned in too close, like they wanted to whisper something rotten in my ear. There was no moon, only the flickering amber glow from a wrought iron lantern above the side entrance, where the word kitchen had been scratched into the wood with something sharp that I was already regretting answering the Craigslist ad. $500 a night. Meals for private clients. No questions. Midnight to sunrise. 1-week contract. I was broke, desperate, and stupid. The building towered over me like a Gothic monument to forgotten sins. Dreadmore House had once been a luxurious estate in the late 1800s. Rich men came to drink, gamble, and indulge in things that had no name. Then the fire happened in 1978. The official story said it was faulty wiring. Locals whispered about something else, something in the walls. They said the house burned, but never fell, and now someone had reopened the kitchen. The kitchen door groaned as I pushed it open. The scent hit me immediately. Stale herbs, rusted, metal, and something beneath it all, sour and almost sweet, like rotten fruit. The interior was clean, modernized in patches, yet it felt wrong. Like a movie set made to look functional, but nothing truly lived here. Fluorescent lights buzzed. Overhead, the stainless steel counters gleamed, but the shadows seemed darker than they should have been. A note sat on the center prep table, weighted down by a butcher's knife. The paper was yellowed, but the ink looked fresh to rules for the night chef. Dreadmore House clock in at exactly 11:59 p.m. Not a second earlier, not a second later. Only cook what appears on the white order slips. They will slide in under the pantry door at 2:33 a.m. Never open the walk-in freezer after 3 a.m. You might let it out. If you hear breathing behind you while chopping vegetables, do not turn around. Just hum softly until it stops. The dumbwaiter will bring dirty dishes at 3:17 a.m. Do not look inside it. Just take the tray. Never, ever season the food with salt. They hate salt. At 4:44 a.m., the head of the house will come to inspect your work. He may look unwell. Do not flinch. Do not speak unless spoken to. The blood in the sink is not yours. Do not panic. Do not clean it. Leave through the back door by 6 a.m. Lock it behind you. Do not look back, no matter what you hear. Do not ask what happened to the last chef. I stared at the rules, rereading them over and over again. My first instinct was to laugh. Dark humor, right? Some twisted hazing ritual, but the butcher's knife, it wasn't placed casually. It was driven into the wooden counter, its blade sunk deep like someone stabbed the table out of panic. Or fury. I checked my phone. 11:58 p.m. 0.1 minute to clock. There was no clock. Just a rusted punch card machine with one card inside, labeled name, Isaac Henley, position, night chef, start date. Today had never told anyone here my name. Swallowing hard, I punched in 11:59 p.m. exactly. The machine clicked, and then emitted a low, wet sound, like someone exhaling underwater. The hours crawled. I did prep work, chopped onions, peeled potatoes, cleaned herbs. No sign of other staff. No sounds but the ticking of the ancient wall clock and the hum of the overhead fan. Then, at 2:33 a.m., just like the rules said, a slip of paper slid in under the pantry door. It scraped across the tile like a fingernail that I bent to retrieve it. The slip was blank. Then, words slowly appeared, as though written by invisible ink. Course 1. Sweetbread sautéed in marrow oil, served with black figs. Course 2. Veal, tongue roulade. Course 3. Raw heart tartare with powdered nightshade, omit salt. Do not burn the meat again. Last time was disappointing. My hands trembled. This wasn't a joke. The pantry was fully stocked, with ingredients I'd never seen before. Meats in vacuum-sealed bags that pulsed faintly. Figs that bled when sliced. A jar labeled marrow oil that writhed with something jelly-like inside. I cooked. I didn't think. I just obeyed. And then at 3:17 a.m., the dumbwaiter rattled. The tray inside held 2 bone-white plates, licked clean, and a severed human finger, still twitching. I gagged and turned away, heart racing. But then I remembered Rule 5. Do not look inside the dumbwaiter. Too late. Inside the shaft, something moved. A slick, wet sound, like something sliding up the walls. I slammed the metal door shut and locked it. Then came the breathing. Behind me, soft, ragged, wet. I froze. The air behind my neck warmed unnaturally. I felt it hovering, tall, wheezing, inches from my skin. I wanted to scream, to run. Instead, I hummed a lullaby my mother used to sing, broken and trembling, and after a moment, the breathing stopped at 4:44 a.m. The inspection came, footsteps on the old wood, heavy, uneven, and then he appeared, the head of the house. A towering figure in a tattered red velvet robe, his skin grayish and too tight across his face like wax stretched over a skull. His eyes were sewn shut, but he moved with precision. His nose twitched like he was smelling me. He sat at the prep table, head tilted. I placed the plate in front of him. Heart tartare, nightshade garnished. He sniffed, his lip curled, but not in displeasure. Then he reached into his robe and dropped a gold coin on the table. It rang like bone on marble. You did not use salt, he rasped, voice dry as parchment. I shook my head. Good, he said. The last chef did. And then he grinned. His teeth were not human. To 5:59 a.m. I cleaned the knife, washed my hands, and left out the back door. The moment I stepped outside, I heard it, screaming. A woman's voice, begging, pleading, coming from somewhere deep inside the house. I didn't look back. I locked the door and ran to my car, gasping for breath. The next night, I returned. There was another note on the table. This time, the rules were different, and someone had carved my name into the freezer door from the inside. It had rained all day, not a cleansing rain, not one of those gentle summer storms that cooled the air and left everything feeling fresh. No, this one was different. It was heavy and angry, the kind of storm that seemed to want to bury something beneath the earth, or maybe unearth something that was never meant to rise. The road to Dreadmore House was nearly washed out. My tires skidded over mud as I turned up the long gravel path. I had the radio on just for company, some late-night talk show about ghost sightings across rural Wisconsin. But the signal died once I passed the crooked iron gate. It always did. I parked beneath the same flickering lantern. It buzzed overhead, emitting a low, angry hum, like it recognized me now, like it was disappointed I came back. I stepped into the kitchen again at 11:58 p.m. The same butcher knife sat on the center table, but this time it was clean, polished, waiting. I punched in my card at exactly 11:59 p.m. The machine swallowed it with a hollow clunk. No exhale this time. Just silence. The first thing I noticed was the new rule sheet on the prep table. This one was freshly printed, crisp and white, typed in all caps. But one line had been scrawled in shaky red ink that updated rules for night 2. Do not speak your name aloud in the kitchen. It remembers. You may notice the mirrors tonight. You may also notice they move. Do not look into them directly. The dumbwaiter will return the bone. You must boil it until it sings. Tonight's meal will require 1 drop of your blood. No more, no less. If the freezer door opens on its own, close it immediately. Do not ask who's inside. Between 3 to 3:13 a.m., you may hear someone crying in the pantry. Ignore them. At 4:44 a.m., if the head of the house smells disappointment, he will ask you a riddle. Answer correctly, or he will keep your tongue. If you hear the bell from the west wing ring 3 times, kneel. Do not rise until it stops, even if the footsteps circle you. Tonight's final task: prepare dessert using the ingredient in the locked drawer. If you open the drawer before 5:55 a.m., you will cook for them forever. I blinked at the last rule. Cook for them forever. My hands shook as I picked up the knife that I wanted to leave. God help me, I wanted to run. But the same invisible force that pulled me here last night had taken root deeper now. Not guilt, not money, obligation. I began prep. The ingredients were stranger this time. The pantry now held a black basket wrapped in waxed cloth. Inside were yellow eyeball-sized fruits with thin veins pulsing across their surfaces. They had no name. They rolled when I touched them, As if they could feel my skin. One of them made a faint gurgling noise when sliced open. I wore gloves this time. The knives were sharper. Cleaned. Placed exactly where I left them. But something was off with the metal. It left a faint coppery taste in the air, like it had been soaked in blood. I chopped. Peeled. Washed. And then 2:33 a.m. A whisper under the pantry door. This time the order slip wasn't just slid in, it was shoved under with such force, it scraped against the tile, curled like a tongue. The words appeared in a slanted crimson ink. Course 1. Boiled bone consommé with skin slivers. Course 2. Tongue pie with bleeding dough. Course 3. Dessert, sea locked drawer. Key will be given. And then a knock, soft. 3 times, the dumbwaiter creaked. Inside wasn't a tray. This time it was a box, long and narrow, wrapped in old parchment paper, tied with human hair. Inside, a bone, the same finger from last night, cleaned, polished, hollowed, and a note, boil until it sings. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't want to know, but I obeyed. The broth began to simmer at 3:00 a.m. Then, the pantry door rattled, softly at first, then louder, then again, and then, crying. A woman. Young, desperate. Please help me. He's going to take my face this time. I stood frozen. My grip tightened around the ladle. The cry turned to a sob, then a gurgle, as if someone stuffed her mouth full of something she couldn't spit out. Wet choking, a dragging sound, then silence. The broth began to hiss. Steam turned black. Inside the pot, the bone shook. 3:17 a.m. The dumbwaiter rattled. Another tray. Empty plate. A bite taken. The rest untouched. A note carved into the wood. 2. Salty. But I hadn't used salt. I swear I hadn't. Unless. No, the crying woman. The pantry. Had her tears fallen into the soup? 3:44 a.m. The mirrors began to appear. They hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. But now, along every kitchen wall, silver-backed mirrors stood propped in corners. Floor length. Tarnished. And in them, I saw myself. Only, not exactly. My reflection was older. Thinner. My skin hung loose. My eyes were sunken. And I was always smiling. Even when I wasn't. 1 mirror cracked suddenly. My reflection didn't blink. It kept smiling. 4:44 a.m. He arrived again, the head of the house. But tonight, he wasn't alone. A shadow followed him, crawling behind him like a dog, too tall, too jointed, its limbs bending the wrong way, scraping along the floor. It never looked at me, but it never stopped twitching. The head sniffed the consommé, tasted the pie, then he smiled and said, "Riddle time, little cook. Fail, and I wear your voice." I nodded. He leaned in. "I speak without a mouth. I echo with no lungs. I am born in silence, yet heard by all. What am I?" My throat went dry. I wanted to panic, but something kicked in. A memory. A teacher in school. I answered. An echo. He paused, then clapped. Once, loudly. The shadow behind him twitched faster, agitated, but the head was pleased. "Very good," he whispered. "He'll have to wait." And then came the key, placed on the table in a small wooden box, covered in soot. It smelled of burnt hair. The drawer in the corner was waiting. I walked to it slowly, every nerve screaming not to open it. I inserted the key. The lock clicked. Inside, a jar sealed, frosted glass, and inside it, something that looked alive. It pulsed. It breathed. It beat like a heart. A label written in Latin, Corvo Spectre, heart of the crow that sees beyond. I didn't want to touch it, but I did. The recipe was taped to the bottom of the drawer. Final course. Dessert crow heart creme brulee. Caramelized the top with flame from the candle. Without wick. In the drawer beside the heart, I found the candle, black. Cold. No wick. But when I held it, it lit itself. The flame was violet, and it screamed. I plated the dessert at 5:33 a.m. The head devoured it. The shadow moaned. Low. Hungry. But the head grinned. He reached into his robe and placed a second gold coin on the counter. Then something else. A photograph. Of me. Cooking. But the date in the corner read, October 19th, 1978. The year of the fire. I backed away. I felt something cold on my neck. Turned. The freezer door was open. Inside, it was pitch black. No frost. No light. But I saw movement. A face. Mine, but screaming, mouth open, eyes bleeding. It whispered, "You're already dead, Isaac. You just haven't finished cooking yet." I didn't sleep after the second night. I drove home on trembling hands and adrenaline. But the house didn't feel like home anymore. The walls whispered. The sink dripped blood instead of water. I thought I was hallucinating. But when I opened the fridge to grab a drink, the jar from Dreadmore, the Corvo Spectre heart, was inside. Still beating. I hadn't brought it home. I slammed the fridge shut. But it kept thudding from the inside. That's when I knew. Dreadmore House had followed me. Night THREI almost didn't go back. But when I opened my phone, my banking app showed an unauthorized transfer, $5,000 deposited at 6:01 a.m. Reference, for services rendered, night 2, but there was something else too. A photo message. No number, just an image, a picture of me, standing at the edge of my bed, watching myself sleep, same chef uniform, same expressionless face. Only, I wasn't there. And beneath it was a message. You already punched in. Don't be late for your final test. ARRL. The storm was worse tonight. Wind bent the trees like old bones. The lantern over the kitchen door had shattered. Glass shards now hung suspended in the air like they were frozen mid-fall. I stepped through the same door, and something changed immediately. The air smelled of rot. The stainless steel counters were rusted. A red film covered the tiles, and the rules were missing. Instead, a sheet of meat-colored parchment was nailed to the wall with a steak knife, handwritten in what looked like inked veins. Warning, Night 3. Rules. Final test begins. Do not acknowledge the woman in white if she stands outside the walk-in freezer. She is not cold. She is hungry. If the dumbwaiter sends down a mirror, cover it immediately. Do not let it see itself. Do not use kitchen knives after 3 a.m. Something else will be using them. The menu will appear in your mouth tonight. Do not spit it out. If a knock comes from beneath the floor, do not answer the trapdoor. Let them keep knocking. At 4:04 a.m., the house will speak. Whatever it asks, do not lie. At 5:13 a.m., you must descend into the basement. Bring nothing with you, not even your skin. Dessert must be made using your memory. Choose the worst one. Failure to complete all dishes will result in immediate absorption. This is your last night. If you make it to dawn, you may ask one question. Only one. Ask wisely. 12:00. Amp lights flickered as I clocked IN.NO card this time. Just a needle hanging from the punch machine. I hesitated, then stabbed my finger. The machine sucked the blood. A light turned green. The kitchen groaned. Alive. Aware. 1:00 a.m. Prep BJ Estonite. There were no ingredients on the shelves. No meat. No vegetables. Only glass jars, all unmarked. Inside each was something different. A mouth filled with moss. A shriveled child's hand holding a lollipop. An eye with hundreds of pupils. A broken clock that still ticked. They hummed, whispered, and in the center of the prep table sat something covered with cloth. I pulled it away. A human head. Preserved. Mouth sewn shut. My own face. I dropped the cloth and stumbled back, knocking over a jar. It shattered, and the room screamed. 2:33 a.m. Menu. A Percy was making stock when I felt something crawl up my throat. I gagged. Something solid rose from my stomach, pushing against my windpipe, until, splat, it landed on the counter. A slip of flesh paper, moist and steaming. The menu. Course 1. Childhood regrets soup. Tears must be fresh. Course 2. Father's disappointment filet, served rare, with memory gravy. Course 3. Basement surprise. Unlock your mind. There were no recipes. Only feelings. 3:00 a.m. The kitchen. TRNS. The lights dimmed to red. All knives disappeared. One by one. They slid off the counters. Into the shadows. Vanished. That's when I heard the footsteps above me. Heavy. Then another sound. Laughter. Coming from the floor. Knock. 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 The trapdoor beneath the pantry started to lift. I shoved a prep card over it. Locked it down. Rule number 5. Let them keep knocking. They did. For 13 minutes straight. Then came the mirror, delivered by dumbwaiter. Cracked, but intact. My reflection was not me. T was my brother. He died 10 years ago. He smiled, then spoke. You should have saved me, Isaac. You left me in that lake. I screamed and covered the mirror with butcher paper. I couldn't bear to look again, but the voice whispered, now from inside the freezer. Open the door. It's warmer in there. I promise. 4:04 a.m. The house hissed, the walls moaned. Pipes gurgled. Then a voice. Low, layered, dozens speaking in unison. Who do you cook for, Isaac? I felt a pressure. Around my skull. My ears bled that I almost lied. Almost said, for survival. But then I remembered rule number 6. Do not lie.so. I said the truth. For redemption. The walls pulsed. The pipes screamed. Then silence. Then approval. 5:13 a.m. The basement opens. The trapdoor had moved on its own. Now wide open, stone stairs led down into pitch blackness that a sign above it in chalk. Your final course is waiting. I stripped off my chef jacket, then my shirt, then everything that I left my clothes behind. As the rules said, bring nothing with you, not even your skin. That part, I understood when the door closed behind me, and I saw what was waiting below. That the basement kitchen, the floor was made of teeth. The walls were stitched flesh, cooking stations made from bone, ovens that breathed, a freezer that wept, and in the center, a version of me. No skin, no eyes, still cooking. He turned to me and whispered, I've been down here a long time, long enough to forget what normal tastes like. Let's finish the meal, brother. I screamed, but my voice stayed in the air, echoing. That's when I knew. This kitchen wasn't just alive. It was mine. A reflection of every sin I buried. Every moment I looked away while others bled. Every second I cooked for people who didn't deserve to be fed. Now I had to cook for them. Final task. There were no ingredients, only memories. 1 Final rule carved into the floor. Use the worst memory. Make it sweet, or be swallowed. I thought back to Tio, the day I told my younger brother to swim out farther. Go deeper, I said. You're fine. He didn't come back. Up. I stood there, frozen, then ran. Never told anyone I was with him. I cooked that memory into a custard, stirred it with guilt, baked it with fear, topped it with a sugar crust of silence, and plated it. The house ate and was silent. Then came the sound of applause, not clapping, bones knocking against bone. 6:00 a.m. Back to the surface. I woke up in the kitchen, fully clothed, knife in hand. The prep station cleaned. The house, quiet. On the counter, a single gold coin and a note. One question. I breathed deep. So many things I wanted to ask, but only one mattered. What happened to the last chef? The lights went out. The walls peeled. The house whispered. You were the last chef, Isaac. You always were. You're not supposed to remember what it feels like to be cooked alive. But I do. Every nerve flaring. Every memory melted into flavor. The screams weren't mine alone. They were theirs. The others who had stood in this kitchen, in this cursed place, and served the wrong kind of hunger. I woke up in the kitchen again, naked, soaked in sweat and blood. My chef's uniform neatly folded beside me. A steaming bowl on the counter labeled, for strength. I didn't want to eat it, but I did, because I knew what today was. The final service. The guests were coming. Drop of blood. The final rules. Pinned by flesh to the wall. The house didn't give me paper anymore. It gave me flesh. Each rule carved deep in. Meat, twitching. Final night rules. You must prepare 5 courses. Each must represent a part of you. A real part. The guests arrive at 3:33 a.m. You must bow. You must not meet their eyes. One will wear your face. One will wear your brother's. One will wear your mother's scream. If the dumbwaiter rings 6 times, the meal is ruined. You will serve yourself instead. Between 4 to 5 a.m., the head of the house will ask, are you ready? You must say yes, no matter what. If you cry into the food, it becomes poison. You'll be the first to taste it. Your last dish must be silence. Pure, true, soul-breaking silence. At sunrise, you may leave, but only if they applaud. 1:00 a.m. Prep means the kitchen was no longer just walls and metal. It had grown flesh, rippled beneath the tile. Pipes pulsed. The oven breathed slow and steady like a dying animal. I stepped to the prep station. The chopping board was made of bone now, my own initials carved into it. I.H. Knives hovered in midair. The house whispered, the first course must be your tongue. I froze. No, I whispered. You lied before, when you left your brother. Take your punishment. 1:33 a.m. First course. I bit down on the rack, picked up the hot carving iron. heated it until it glowed, held the mirror. Then, I cut out my tongue. Not completely, just a sliver. Enough to dice. It twitched in the pan like it was trying to crawl away. I caramelized it in honey, seasoned with regret. Served it on bone crackers. Course 1. Glazed tongue of the forgotten lie. 2:00 a.m. Second to the fridge opened on its own. Inside, a heart, still beating. Not mine. Not human. Something in between. Wrapped in newspaper clippings about a 1978 kitchen fire. Death toll. 1 chef, 3 guests, 1 unknown entity. My photo was in the corner. Aged. Burnt. Labeled, Chef Isaac Henley, wanted for arson. I don't remember setting any fire, but the house does. I took the heart, braised it in black butter, and nightmares. Served on a porcelain plate. Course 2. Smoked regret a la arson. 2:45 a.m. Third star. The pantry was open again. Inside stood my brother, mouth sewn shut, neck at a horrible angle, holding a fishhook with a note. Remove your memory of his death. Feed it to the guests. I dropped to my knees. Tears began to rise. Rule 6. If you cry into the food, it becomes poison. I stood up, swallowed it, took the memory from my head. Literally, a red pulsing orb that emerged from my temple. I crushed it, mixed it into a sauce of forgetting. Course 3. Filet of amnesia with grief reduction glaze. 3:33 a.m. The temperature dropped. Candles lit themselves. They entered from the walls. First guest, wearing my face, stitched on backward. Second guest, wearing my brother's skin, hollow eyes weeping. Third guest, her scream entered. Before she did, my mother's scream, wrapped in a silhouette of burnt cloth and teeth. I bowed, did not meet their eyes. They sat. Hands on table, clawed, feathered. Human? Not anymore. They were hungry. 4:00 a.m. The Kingston, the head of the house, appeared again. This time, taller. His robe dragging across the ground like a funeral train. He leaned over me. Are you ready? I wanted to scream no. I wanted to run, but I said yes. And he smiled, his mouth now full of my brother's fingers. 4:30 a.m. Fourth hour. The table began to groan. Each guest pounded once. Their signal, bring more. I stepped forward. I placed the tray on the table. A roast carved from my back. Literally, the scar was still bleeding. Course 4. Shoulder of responsibility with skin of denial. They ate, they howled, they moaned and slapped the table. One of them began chewing on their own wrist in delight. Another burped fire. 5:33 a.m. Final course. Saying to the house dimmed. Everything stopped. Even the knives hovered midair, waiting. I stood before them, hands shaking, mind broken. The oven opened. Inside, a child, sleeping, skin cracked like porcelain, lungs barely moving. The house whispered, bake your innocence. Serve it warm. I stepped inside, closed the oven, and let it burn. I came out blackened. Soot and ash. Eyes melted. Voice gone. I carried the dish to the guests, placed it, bowed low, waited. 6:00 a.m. And the guests stood. Each raised their hand. Their eyes turned to blood. Their mouths opened. And they applauded, thunderous. Shaking the kitchen walls, clocks exploded. The oven roared. The house laughed. You have served your penance. One question remains. I stood tall, broken but still breathing. And I asked, what is Dreadmore House? The walls peeled. The flesh tore away, revealing a cathedral of horror. Dreadmore is not a house, not a location, not a place. It is a judgment. A soul trap. A punishment for those who fed the wrong hunger. Those who looked away when others bled. Those who wore aprons while others wore chains. And worst of all, those who served evil and called it a living. Epilogue. 6:06 a.m. I woke up on a country road, naked, alone. Behind me, Dreadmore House crumbled into dust. I held one thing in my hand. A coin, the same as before, but this one had a new word carved in, redeemed.